Hello and welcome to the On Track video cast. This morning I have with me Bridget Danner from the Women's Wellness Collaborative. She is an acupuncturist, no longer practicing though. Functional health coach. She's hosts the podcast Women's Wellness Radio, and she was the creator of the Hormone Summit and the Women's Wellness Summit. Or is that the same thing?
We have a Hormones, a Women's Wellness Summit. I learned to not make the name so complicated in the future. Okay. And then the second one was Hormone Balance After 40.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome to the On Track group. Thank you for coming to speak to me, Bridget.
Yeah, I'm really having fun already.
We were talking prior to this, and we probably could have kept talking for quite some time because we're both in the female health business, both super passionate about hormones. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this and why you are so passionate, because you have a bit of a story yourself.
Yeah, so I was already working as an acupuncturist, and short story on why I did that is really because I was like a little environmentalist from a young age, and I thought, well, working in natural health is a way to kind of influence people to live more naturally. So I got into acupuncture, but then when I had my son, my first baby, my only baby, I had also just opened a clinic, and we were really financially stressed, and my postpartum was hard. I was overwhelmed and probably depressed. I probably didn't know that I was at the time. I just needed to find some other tools to get out of that, even though I was already an acupuncturist and knew some things. But I found a coach, a life kind of business coach, life coach. I started learning more about nutrition and kind of the functional systems of the body, learning about the adrenal glands and that kind of a thing. And it's really, really helped me recover. And then from there, I was like, people should know about these tools, and women shouldn't have to be in that state. So I really focused on women's health from then on out.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but in all my research, and I've been researching nutrition for 20 years, I actually find there's not a lot of people talking about the women's hormones. For sure more now, but when you look at like different books that are out there, and I know it's changing, it changes so fast, the science is coming out on it. It's always, I just find that there's not a lot of people that specifically are dealing with the female hormones. I know Sarah Godfrey is one of my faves, but
I think it might be because they're so complicated.
I think so too.
They're pretty complicated to learn and explain. I was that way as an acupuncturist. I didn't really, get it. And when I shifted into women's health, I was working just with fertility for a few years because I had studied fertility for my own fertility. And then I kind of had to take a deep dive when I focused on fertility and understanding the cycle and how the hormones change. And I'm really thankful for that, even though I don't focus on fertility exclusively anymore. Like, I really understood the cycle, which was huge, and what can go wrong in the menstrual cycle, which, is now we deal with a little bit more of perimenopause more often, and menopause, but just having that foundation of understanding the cycle really well, it helped me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the menopause, perimenopause, I have a lot of women in the group that are in that, 40 plus range. And why is it that we're seeing this, this drastic, earlier onset of perimenopause right now? And I'm sure you see this in your practice. What do you think is the cause of that?
Yeah, naturally our hormones do start to change, 35, 40, they're starting to change. But I think in a healthy body, you won't see a lot of disruption. In a not so balanced body, you're going to see more. So if you're moving into perimenopause already with adrenal fatigue, already with a thyroid disorder, already with a leaky gut, which is a lot of women, and already living in a toxic world and, stressed, it's just it's going to show up as an imbalance more when those hormones do change naturally, because you can't you can't manage the change. It's like one more stressor for the body. So for instance, it's pretty natural to get into estrogen dominance in perimenopause, which if you have like a super clean liver and a super healthy gut, like it should be kind of managing, clearing that estrogen out and, kind of just making enough hormones to kind of smooth things over. But in a less than ideal situation, you're going to notice things like, oh yeah, more anxiety and weight gain and that kind of a thing. And your period changing is kind of normal and natural, like your period getting irregular. But if it's getting, like for me, like with some health stuff I'm dealing with, if, I just turned 43 and I really shouldn't be having 2-week periods or spotting or anything like that at this age. When I'm 49 or 50, that would be more fitting, so to speak, but it shouldn't be happening now. And it's because my body is dealing with toxic mold and its own little collection of things that I collected.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just another way of like the body telling you things are out of balance here.
So are any of those symptoms that we're seeing, the weight gain, the hot flashes, the emotional instability, is any of that, considered normal? Like yes, you should be going through some degree of that.
I think it depends who you ask. So I interviewed like 30 people on that Hormone Balance After 40 Summit, and some were like, no, if you're healthy, you should have like no symptoms. Your period should just get more spaced out and then stop. And then other people said that, yes, you are going to have some symptoms. So I don't know. I know I have talked to some women who are like, yeah, nothing really happened for me except my period stopped. But I think that's more rare. And I think accepting some amount of symptoms and change is like kind of okay. Just like when we're having our period, like should your period be completely horrible? No, but it's natural to feel like a little more withdrawn or a little less energetic. Like some of that is natural. So I think some things are natural. It's part of the cycles of life too. We're getting older and we're ending a phase of life. And with that is going to come some reflection and some changes in outlook and that kind of thing. That's like natural, I think. And that's kind of getting brought up by the hormone changes, really. So, I guess short answer is I think some is to be expected, but it shouldn't be debilitating.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that it's normal to accept that, or we might put on a little weight and that's okay. Although it's never okay for any woman.
Well, I personally think you cannot put on weight. I think that one, in my opinion, can be avoided. I think some would mostly just kind of, just like, are you going to get wrinkles when you get older? Well, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Some things are inevitable, but I think if you go into perimenopause with a healthy liver and a working gut and you respect your metabolism and you kind of like adjust, I think you can do it, but the body will tend to try to put weight on you. That is somewhat true. Because I guess it's kind of protecting our bones to have a little more cushioning. Because our estrogen makes our bones strong, and when we go lower on estrogen, our bones can become weaker. So that's kind of one reason I think biologically we can put on a little cushion.
That's what I always tell my clients. It's just cushion in case you fall. Don't break any bones. Maybe then you'll accept it better. Right? So something you talk about in your blog is how you're at risk for thyroid disease after 40. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I have never heard that, I don't think, before.
Yeah, it has to do with that estrogen dominance and more estrogen in circulation. What are some of the other factors are some of the things that we talked about with toxicity and the like adrenals weakening, but most people are diagnosed with a thyroid condition in perimenopause or menopause. Yeah. And wow. I think it's gotten because a lot of bloggers and stuff are younger, like people who got thyroid disease when they were 25 and then they started to blog about it and they're super popular. but that is actually less common than the older woman developing a thyroid condition. Also, some other things change with age, like we make less stomach acid, and then maybe we have more inflammation in the gut because we're not digesting as well, and leaky gut can lead to thyroid issues. What are some other issues? Yeah, also the liver is a site of thyroid hormone manufacturing or conversion. And so if the liver is, more congested by midlife, I think mostly it's that estrogen dominance piece that can lead to, I wrote a whole thing on it. Now I can't remember how it works. Something about sex hormone binding globulin. Like there's something about that is playing in there. So yeah, it's just that hormonal change in the female hormones, which again is somewhat normal, can lead the thyroid to be a little susceptible. So yeah, you just really have to concentrate on those base things about like eating clean food, like you're teaching your community, and keeping your liver, flowing and your bile flowing and that kind of a thing. If you keep all those systems nourished, they should be kind of watching out for you as you go through perimenopause to help prevent things like thyroid disease from popping up.
Mm-hmm. And, I know you see this in your practice as I do, where people come in and they'll say, well, I have all these symptoms of hormone dysfunction. Well, can't I just go to my doctor and they'll test me?
Yeah.
What is the difference? So for the people that don't know, which I think is a lot of people, majority, what would be the difference between seeing a functional medicine practitioner compared to what a medical doctor would do for a woman that's going through menopause or just having hormone dysfunction, infertility?
Yeah, well, let's maybe we'll put in the example of perimenopause, since we were just talking about that. If you're a woman and you're 47 or something, and you're feeling like more fatigued and you're gaining weight and you don't know why, or maybe you're feeling kind of depressed, or maybe some hair is falling out, or maybe you're getting hot flashes and keeping you up at night or whatever. If you go to the doctor, what's probably going to happen is they're going to offer you an antidepressant, maybe run some blood work and check your thyroid TSH score only, your thyroid stimulating hormone. What else would they maybe do? I mean, I don't even really think they'd check your female hormones, or just to kind of say, oh, you're getting older. Frankly, this is why I don't go in for these kinds of problems, because I'm like, I can't even kind of think what they would do. I mean, and they wouldn't check your gut, which is a major thing to check when hormones are out of balance. So yeah, I don't want to diss doctors. I mean, our friend's baby just had heart surgery yesterday. I mean, that's incredible. It's like a miracle that can even happen. So there's things that they can do. But dealing with things like fatigue and like a little weight gain and a little hair falling out, and unless you happen to find a doctor who's had some advanced training and in thyroid, for example, where they would say, hey, like I had a client the other day, and she's like, she just found out she had thyroid antibodies. Her doctor suggested to test it, which was great. She had thyroid problem for like 10 years. Finally, she found out she had antibodies. But then the doctor was like, well, there's really nothing to be done about that. So now you know. So it's such a complicated treatment, frankly, treating this stuff. So our approach in functional nutrition, we do test hormones, and occasionally we can get someone's doctor to run a more complete thyroid panel or a complete blood count that we can kind of get some clues from. Or you can just order those things online and not have to go through a doctor. It's fairly affordable. And then we do often a dried urine hormone test. So it doesn't matter what age you are, 25, 47, 70, you still have hormones and they are doing something. And if they are off balance, or you're not detoxing or whatever, and we can see that from the test, we can make you a very specific protocol based on that. And then we often check the gut, do a stool test to see, okay, do you have candida overgrowth? That can cause a ton of symptoms. Usually candida comes after another kind of more major player, like a parasite, or many people have SIBO, we're finding in our practice. So when we work with a private client, we do that kind of testing. And then you can kind of just get an explanation for why am I tired? Why can't I lose weight? All those kind of symptoms. So we can really see on paper, like, okay, like we see that, you're not clearing estrogen well. And then we can see from your gut test that you're actually like releasing estrogen again from the gut. It's pretty amazing that we can see that from the stool test. So you can kind of just get a picture of what's going on. And many people like your community, they're already doing some things right, but there's been insults to the body for years, whether there was like emotional trauma or antibiotic use, or many people are on a good diet now, but we're not earlier, that kind of a thing. So it's sort of like putting the pieces together about their own history, and then also what we see on the labs, and then making a really custom protocol to bring hormone levels up as needed, or improve the detox process, or clear pathogens from the gut. The thyroid really needs to be supported in like so many different ways. So a lot of people also, if you go to the doctor and they do see something funny with your thyroid, will put you on medication, which can be helpful for some people, and other people don't find it that helpful. So that's really common. So just supporting those places that thyroid hormones convert, and just getting inflammation out of the body so there's better communication between the endocrine system.
And how do you feel about the bioidentical therapies, like adding in the progesterone cream and for some cortisol, things like that? That's not cream, but the cortisol tablets. Like I don't know.
I never use cortisol directly. I have used like adrenal glandulars, like from pig. I do see some good results with progesterone. Sometimes we use like some DHEA in our practice. I personally have been a little sensitive to some bioidenticals. We all interact differently with different substances. So I'm not like a firm yes or a firm no on them. We do use some of them with some clients, but I would say the majority we do not. We do not use them. But like I think progesterone in the last 2 weeks of your cycle is pretty benign and can be really helpful for things like insomnia and people getting more achy and stuff during like the second 2 weeks of their cycle. I think some of the problem is that people are trying things without the testing and without much monitoring. So we meet a lot of clients who are using progesterone cream just on their own, just no guidance. So it can build up in your tissue, and then that's confusing your hormone signaling when the body thinks there's a bunch of progesterone available. So we mostly don't do creams. We do like an oral thing where you can drop it in. So it just kind of depends on the case. Like for me, for instance, I'm really good at making inflammatory testosterone in my body. Like I know that from my hormone tests. I know it because I'm 43 and I still get acne. Like my body loves to make that. So if I take DHEA in too much of an amount, which it doesn't take much, I'll start breaking out. But I can take a teeny tiny bit, and maybe another woman can take a lot. It's just so case by case, but I think it's good to kind of have an open mind to them. If you're really sick, especially, those things could really help and get you off the ground, so to speak. And there's some of my colleagues are very skilled at making very refined bioidentical formulas for a client based on the labs. Some of my MD colleagues. So I think what they do is great. It's just, me and my health coach partner, we are coaches. We're, so we don't have a wide range of bioidenticals we can get our hands on. So,
I just know that there's a lot of, like, I hear, because I interview so many people, there's two different camps. You talk, like Sarah Gottfried, for instance, she's really skeptical of using bioidentical hormones because she doesn't think there's enough science behind them yet, but says that, we can use them for a short period of time when somebody's not feeling very well, and then take them off basically once we start to get the levels naturally going again. And What I have found though in my practice is women just tend to feel a lot better when they're on it.
And they want to stay on.
And they want to stay on, especially as they go through menopause. Like I know my mom's like, oh my God, I couldn't live without my progesterone cream.
Oh, yeah. 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 I mean, I would say at the minimum you should recheck, because if you find those levels are sky high, that's something to think about. And there's like the cancer risk about
Yes.
adding in too much, like DHEA. If you've had breast cancer, you should not take. So there's some monitoring that needs to be done. I know, but some of my colleagues are like, yeah, just keep taking them. Like, what? No big deal. Like, just keep going. Just check in every 6 months or something. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea and can keep us kind of feeling youthful. However, it's not really the functional approach, I don't believe.
I don't believe so either. It's still a Band-Aid. It helps you come out of it. And I think that's a great tool. But it's still saying that there's an underlying issue going on. Like, why is it imbalanced to begin with, right?
Yeah. And there are people who in their 50s and 60s, like friends of mine in the health field, who have a lot of energy and good sex drive. It's not like it's impossible to have on your own. But yeah, I'm sure having that intervention feels awfully good. Makes it a lot easier. But yeah, I think it's like kind of with the word of caution and knowing, you haven't gotten to the real root of it if you don't feel that way completely on your own.
Yeah. And so what are some of your favorite natural interventions to help women to start balancing those hormones? What have you seen as far as like herbals, vitamins, minerals that seem to be winners?
Yeah, one I've been talking about a lot lately is hemp oil. I love hemp oil better than the seed, which is I had been using the seed in smoothies and stuff for a long time. But it has prostaglandins that are like similar to hormones, and they help manufacture hormones. And I just noticed when I take that like a tablespoon or two a day regularly, my cycles just go better. So that's super easy. Yeah, you can just pour it over like cooked food or put it in a smoothie. It's not meant to be heated, but you can use it as like a topping type of a thing. So I really like that one. I mean, I'm a big fan of women taking kind of the basic things before they add the extra things, because again, your body, if it has all the ingredients it needs, it should be making hormones for you.
Yeah.
Also in the present, in the absence of inflammation and that kind of thing. So I do really recommend at least 400 milligrams of magnesium a day. For many people, they need more like 600 or 800.
Yeah.
And I like this magnesium chelate. It's kind of bound to some amino acids that help it get into your cells. I really like that a lot. I think it helps for a lot of symptoms like insomnia and anxiety. Yes. I think it does a lot of other things. I mean, I think magnesium does like 300 things in your body. Yeah. So I can't.
If you're going to take anything, take magnesium.
It's so great. Yeah. The B vitamins too are really important for hormone production. So that's important. Taking a good quality B vitamin with the methylated B12 and B6, I think is important. So getting that usually not from a drugstore, usually from a practitioner or from, a good website that you follow or something, or a practitioner you follow, because the drugstore won't have a good one. Fish oil, I think, is great because it's an anti-inflammatory. And again, we need fats to build hormones all the time. So I think fish oil had its like moment of glory that is not as like talked about anymore.
I know, right? It's old news.
It's like, yeah, we go through these trends. I think fish oil is still a good thing. Again, quality is huge. Yeah, or getting some wild, salmon a couple times a week, or sardines or something like that.
Yeah, I think I don't talk about I don't often recommend omega-3 anymore, because I've read so much information about the toxicity of so many of them that I don't trust the products anymore, that I'm too nervous to say. I know you guys have one particular brand down in the States that used to ship to Canada, and it was awesome and I loved it. It had all the tests done, and
maybe Nordic Naturals. That's a kind of a popular one.
Oh, I don't think that's what
No.
it was like.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
We just had a podcast called Seafood Safety, Seafood Benefits. So we can maybe link to that for people
ooh, that's a
because
good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
there is a lot of like people are just like, I don't know, I'll just won't have any, and it is like it's omega-3 is like one of the most tested substances to be like known as beneficial for health, especially if you're going to get pregnant or you're breastfeeding. That's also a really important time, but just at any age for preventing autoimmune disease, treating autoimmune disease, for brain health. So yeah, it's not as popular for some odd reason, but yeah, I would listen to that episode talking about, we talk about like Fukushima and like we talk about a lot of things that people might be worried
Oh,
about.
yes, I will link to that because I even just read Nora Gagadegas's new book, and she says she won't even suggest for people to eat fish anymore coming out of the Pacific Ocean or seafood because it's so toxic.
Not according to my expert who I had on the show.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and they're testing the radiation every year with the fish they catch. So, I think, and there's companies, who do test. Our store, we're developing, will ship internationally, and our fish oil will be good quality.
Yeah.
So
I know for myself, I do Designs for Health krill oil.
Okay. Yeah. Designs for Health is a company we're going to use a lot of in our store.
I love them so much, and they're a great company, and their krill oil is clean. I can tell you that you don't get that aftertaste in your mouth, and I have read it's better for a lot of women than the fish oil. So I thought, okay. And I do find it works better for me than just fish oils did, for sure.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it has a different profile of fats, but then it has like those antioxidants in it naturally. So I wouldn't say I've switched over to it, but I've definitely heard about it. It does have a different fat profile. I think it has less DHA. Is that right?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I looked at it.
I think that's maybe the difference. I do like if you're taking a liquid. Are you taking a liquid?
No, it's in a gelatin.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, the liquid can be great too. I mean, they're all great, but I feel like when I take a liquid, like I take it when I'm catching a cold and it helps. It's pretty powerful stuff. So yeah, I think getting all those basics in, just taking a high quality multivitamin. I take this little packet every day that has like the fish oil and the extra magnesium and stuff. And I just know I've covered my bases, but from there, yeah, I mean, there's lots of potential good things. I think if you're on the younger end, Vitex, which is also chaste tree, can be good to kind of signal the brain to work the ovary, so to speak. And maca is one that I've been experimenting with a type of maca this past month, and I definitely had like a heavier, stronger period from it.
It's supposed to increase testosterone in some women. Like it can go down that path. So for you may want to be careful on that one if you're already.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to.
Didn't want to go near it because I have read that it could do that, like go testosterone or estrogen even. I was like, oh yeah, no, I can't even take the chance. But I do know that so many people find that it really helps sex drive. I have heard that numerous times.
So mostly sex drive is based on testosterone though.
Exactly. So it makes sense, right?
So we do need testosterone, but there's types of testosterone, and according to your genetics or your liver, you can break things down, right? Just like with estrogen, there's different types you can break into. So I think, people have that worry too. Like we talked about with fish oil, like people are worried, well, isn't too much estrogen bad and it's going to give me cancer? No, not really. Not if it's in balance with like your detox pathways are working and that kind of a thing. So, that's why usually, we're testing and we're not just like spitballing. But I don't think it's the worst thing to try maca. And if you feel like, oh, this is giving me some reaction you do want estrogen, you do want testosterone. But you also want to be clearing them to the other side of the coin.
Right. Yeah. And if somebody can't afford to get testing, what do you usually do for them?
Yeah, I was telling you before we started talking that we're going to develop some more programs because, not everybody's ready to take that step. It's like you said, you're not going to get those tests run at your doctor's office, so you're going to be paying for them. You can pay with sometimes your flexible spending thing. I don't know if you have that in Canada, where it's like pre-tax money you put aside towards medical. Sometimes you can at least do that. You don't have that.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think things like you're doing in your program, just healing the gut, getting good, real nutrition into you, is just, of course, like hugely foundational for all that. Yeah. And then, then there's like just exercising and stress management, like all that stuff is like the basis. Really almost before you bother to do testing, there's no point in doing testing if you're eating fast food and stuff like that. It's like,
good
just
point.
take that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, because it's true. Like, don't until you do everything you can, that kind of, like, you change your diet first, lower your stress levels. If then you still have problems, and get the testing and get and one thing people don't know to do is the stool testing. We don't see a lot of that in Canada. And I know that you yourself had an experience with that, where you had, done all these things, had them in place, but still weren't feeling very good.
Yeah, to me, that's when you go to the testing, when you're like, well, I'm already doing my AIP diet, and I'm already going to yoga class, and like, I'm the healthiest person I know on paper, but I don't feel as well as I want to. And I just want to stress, like, yes, you can feel better. Like, don't say, oh, well, I shouldn't complain. I'm already like spending my family's money on this organic food and everything. Like, no, you can feel better. Don't settle for like what's become our standard of health in America, maybe in Canada too. Like, don't, the average person is not healthy anymore. So don't accept that as, the gold standard. So so I think how you get a base of diet and habits, and then you could experiment with some herbs on your own. We're going to try to incorporate more of that for people who are just like ready to experiment with a few things. They're not quite ready for that testing level yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last thing I wanted you to talk about, because I had never read this before either, is seed cycling. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, because I'm all about food and how food can help us heal. And I've never heard of seed cycling. So if you could just briefly, and then we can send people over to your site so they can read about it themselves. But what is seed cycling?
Yeah, we have a link on that with like recipes and instructions. It's basically taking two types of seeds, or you can use like a liquid oil the first 2 weeks of your cycle, and those are flax and pumpkin, or fish oil, actually, you can take. And like, some people are like, I can't tolerate seeds or whatever. So you can take a liquid or a capsule. You take flax or pumpkin or both, usually, raw, kept in your fridge, and then you grind it up, put it in your smoothie, put it on top of your food. And that helps build estrogens. Yeah, estrogens aren't bad. They are a normal hormone that we have. And then at the 2-week mark, you switch to sesame, and what's the other one that starts with an S? I can't remember it right now.
Sunflower?
Yes, thank you. It's my mold brain. Sometimes it doesn't work. You can use either one, or you can use both, or you can use like a borage oil or evening primrose oil in that second half to help you make progesterone. So the fibers are good because they help your hormone clearance. A lot of people tell me that they start having better bowel movements from doing seed cycling. Yeah, and then the micronutrients and the oils in those two types of seeds have a little more affinity for making estrogen or progesterone. So that's like a super simple intervention to do. Yeah, really easy. Most people do well on it, and some people start to normalize their cycle, or their cycle comes back. A lot of people are like, well, what if I don't have a cycle, or I hadn't had it in a few months? You can also follow the moon cycle. Like if you haven't had a period in a bit, like the new moon would represent menstruation, day 1 of your cycle, and the full moon would represent ovulation, day 14. So you can go with that cycle. Even if you're postmenopausal, you could do that, because we're still again making hormones and like responding to nature even postmenopausal. So you can do it that way.
I love that. That's a great tool, actually.
Yeah, it's really easy, and we've got a few different recipes. And I don't know if there's been studies on seed cycling per se,
Yeah.
but probably on these different ingredients there have been. It's just kind of an old, like traditional naturopathic, I don't know where it first came from, tool.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'll link to that post as well so that people can go in and just watch your videos and check it out and try it out for themselves. It is.
Yeah, it's really popular. People
Yeah,
do like those little, I should think of more of them because people do love those kind of
they
small
do.
things they can do, cost, minimal cost. So,
Yes, and we have a lot of that coming in. That's going to be part of this hormone detox challenge that I'm doing. Is those little food interventions or self interventions that you can do to help balance the hormones. So I'm going to add that to it. It's the seed cycling. So
great.
before we run out of time here, tell us where everybody can find you and you have a gift for us, an opt-in gift.
Yeah, I was going to give to people listening. I did an interview with Dr. Carrie Jones, who's a naturopathic physician with a hormone testing company, and she's great. And she gave an interview about the different like phases of life and what can go wrong with hormones, and then her different like little favorite herbs and supplements for them. So that was really popular. So I'll give that interview, and we have notes to the interview. So we'll put that on your page. And then my site is bridgetdanner.com. And from there, you can, go to the blog, and there's information on the podcast. If you're already a podcast person, just search Women's Wellness Radio on your podcast player, and then you'll see my face come up. And we have a weekly episode, tons of great content. You mentioned you interviewed Evan Brand. He's coming on next week to talk about EMF. We're doing a thing on SIBO where, we go really deep with our different topics on the show. So,
and you just had Dave Asprey on?
Dave Asprey, we're doing a whole week on mold and water damage in October. So it's, does it have just to do with women? No, but it's something I experienced and have a lot of passion about. So you guys luckily, you guys aren't in the path of a hurricane in Canada, no. But there's been a lot of people in the path of a hurricane this year. So we want people to understand the health effects of mold and water damage.
Yeah, we had the opposite. We had forest fires nonstop through the whole summer. It's the worst summer they've ever seen for forest fires.
Oh, gosh.
We lived in
from where I'm from in Oregon too. No, I was saying that somebody should do a week about that too, because that has its own health risks.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. It was compared to like smoking a couple packs of cigarettes a day. What we were breathing in. Oh, and we were told to stay inside. It was terrible, terrible summer. So yeah, the world's falling apart. But we can leave.
We have to know how to respond to it, and also just minimize our own effect on. That's why I love talking about organic food and natural options, because we're creating our own problems too. We have to acknowledge that and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, and support those detoxification pathways, because it's coming at us at all angles right now. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you, Bridget. It's been lovely. I'm so happy that I had you come on. I know everybody's going to really appreciate this. So we're going to link everything over to your site. So if people want more information, or they would like to purchase the Women's Wellness Summit, which is full of tons and tons of information like this. We're going to post the free video or the opt-in link. We're not sure where that's coming from yet, but we'll get that up there, won't we, Bridget?
Yeah. And we will be switching our online store to international soon. So if people want to circle back definitely by the new year, it's important to me that I was like, we just can't ship international yet. And so I'm really passionate to like switch to, because I love having an international community. It's so fabulous, but you have to give everyone access. So we'll be opening that up soon too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you. We're going to leave it there before we run out of time.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. We'll see you later.